I personally believe that there is still a chance for Graham Potter to turn it around, and he has 3 games to do it. It's Potter clock. It's that time. It's that time. It's that time that we delve a little bit deeper into the question on everyone's mind at the moment. Is it Graham Potter in? Is it Graham Potter out? What is the situation? It's been a few days since we played Southampton. Cooler heads, hopefully, will prevail and we can have a proper conversation about where everything is going. What is next for Chelsea? Is there hope for us still this season in the one competition that is left? And that's just around the corner. We find out if we're going to be proceeding, or progressing in that regard. And more specifically, is there hope for Graham Potter at Chelsea Football Club past the end of the season? And does he even make it to the end of the season? The simple answer to that question is yes, he does make it that far. But before we address that, let's address some stats. We look at Graham Potter's Brighton last season versus Chelsea this season, and it's worrying to say the least, the similarities. Worrying in the sense that not only have we seemingly stolen what was their backbone, the backroom staff, Graham Potter himself, Cucurella, God knows what else. We've even mimicked their form, which is virtually identical. Goals, 23 to 23. Position, 10th to 9th. Points, 31 to 30. It's embarrassing, to say the least, that we have quite literally. And the joke does go around that, we are just Brighton 2.0 these days, or so it seems. Graham Potter's Chelsea Premier League statistics. Played 16, 15 goals scored, 13 scored against, with 21 points for a win percentage of 43.75. And if we're going outside of the Premier League, overall, a 36% win ratio, which is shambolic, to say the least. Absolutely shambolic. So should we keep with Graham? What are the pros? What are the cons? The pros. If we stick with him, it shows that we've changed. Bowley wants us all to buy into this whole agenda agenda has a bit of a bad connotation these days, but it's what Bowley wants. He wants the fans to see. However, the longer, we go on, hopefully, surely, there will come a time where Potter finds a good stretch of form and then can build on that and over time. But the thing is, the longer the poor form goes on, whilst at first we might have appreciated the board sticking with Potter, the longer that this poor form goes on, the more it seems like the board just don't want to be proven wrong. They don't want to be seen to be wrong in the eyes of the fans, which already they are. The fans aren't happy. We're not happy. And plenty of the fans are letting them know exactly how they feel. So the morale around the club at the moment is absolutely shot to bits anyway. But a pro, and only if it ends up being pulled off, which it isn't looking likely right now, and who's to say that it won't change eventually. That said, how long are we expected to wait? If he does end up on top, if he does end up being the man for the job, looking at how we are at the moment, are we expected to wait another 2-3 seasons for this to come and plan out the way that Bowley and his goons want it to do so? What is success? Can Potter win the Champions League this season? Every other team left in the tournament aren't really looking up to scratch, much like ourselves, but in past seasons, the Champions League seems way more competitive, way more high sort of elite quality than it has done this season. Chelsea are known for doing it against all the odds, but surely, this would be the most unlikely of all, which is why I just have a feeling if he can get past Dortmund, there's a little glimmer of hope. Am I expecting us to win the Champions League? Absolutely not. Did I expect us to win the Champions League the 2 times that we have done it? Absolutely not, which is why it's set up so perfectly. If we stick with him until next season, then what? Do we go and give him go and see what happens. If it all goes wrong, do we virtually do the same thing that we've done this season, where we've let Tuchel go with 5 games gone, 6 games gone, and then hope that, you know, the person that comes in for Graham Potter can pick up the pieces, mend all the issues that we had with Tuchel and now that we've got with Potter, and it's just the cycle continues over and over again, bringing in a replacement to fix the mess. If we stick with Potter, will the wrongs eventually become right over time? And can we wait that long in the hopes that it does, when there is nothing, not even a slither, not even the smallest foundation so far for there to be any sort of backing? At the beginning, when he comes in, absolutely, sure. You know, you give every gaffer a chance. And I know he's only been here, what is it, 4 or 5 months, maybe 6 months? But there comes a time. It's all well and good if there was a visible foundation of positivity, but we absolutely reek. It is impossible to see anything positive about this team right now with Potter in charge from what we have seen. And that's not me being a negative, entitled brat Chelsea fan. I'm just stating the facts. We've gone through the statistics of his tenure so far at the club. The cons, and most importantly, the most important con of all, or point generally, is that the fans have officially turned. As soon as that happens, it is more often than not impossible to sway the opinion unless, and this has rarely ever happened at Chelsea, but Potter is given time, which he will be. They've made no, you know, it's been leaked all over the gaff that he's going to be given time, especially when they said at the first that he'd be given time. But more recently, he's been said to have been given the backing of the board. And in the remainder of the season, he rights his wrongs. If we give him the time, he patches everything that needs patching with the obvious aspects. It's really simple. Defensively, we're getting there. We are getting there. But it's the scoring, it's the finishing, it's the mentality when we that we display under pressure. When we've gone 1-0 down, we drop our heads. There's no sense of urgency. We second half performances absolutely shambolic on a regular basis. Another one that is equally as important as the fans now losing their heads in terms of how they view the manager is if we get battered by Tottenham Hotspur this weekend. Chelsea fans, don't forget this. Not saying every team doesn't have their groups where they don't forget things, but we rarely lose to Tottenham, if ever. It's the rare little anomalies here and there. The morale is absolutely at the lowest point that it could be, but, and a big but at that, if we lose, that's one thing. We can take a 1-0 loss at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. But if we get battered, if we get embarrassed by Tottenham on the weekend, it will cause carnage. There will be no coming back from that. If it's a 4-5-0, and it's unlikely, looking at how they've been, how we've been, how, in recent history, how we always tend to show up against Tottenham no matter what kind of state we're in. But I'm just saying, if we get battered by Tottenham, he might as well sign his release forms as it is. Typically, a certainty in life when it comes to Chelsea, and that is that we do not lose to Tottenham. As I said, it rarely, if ever. If you think the fans have turned already, there's more to come if that happens. Next, if we're knocked out of the Champions League, history would tell you that a manager bounce for Chelsea, especially in the Champions League, has done us quite well. But again, we're not looking for short-term fixes, which leads me to my next point. Who would come in? Mourinho, Tuchel, Luis Enrique, Zidane? There's a whole heap of choices, but really no certainty in those options. Jose, by all accounts, has told Todd Boehly, or his team has, that his abilities, his presence will be available should they come knocking, or at least that it was at the beginning of this season. Thomas Tuchel won't happen as much as we all want it to happen. It will not happen. Enrique, Zidane, probably likewise. Pochettino has turned it down already. listen, ultimately, it's all well and good sacking him now, but with no real suited option. We know the pattern by now. Manager bounce, possible trophies, declined, see you later. Every single time. It never works out. Tuchel was the closest thing we had recently to anything working out. And then a new situation evolved where he's not agreeing with the board, which has happened in the past with teams that he's been at, and yada, 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 all that stuff. The cycle continues and the circus is still well and truly alive and kicking. It comes down to this. Truly, and this will be the deciding factor. First of all, despite what I am about to say, everything we've been told since the loss on Saturday leaves us with the certainty that Graham Potter will be backed, he will remain at Chelsea, and that Chelsea fans must come to terms with the fact that the club has changed, and no complaining, no protesting, no level of temper tantrums will get the board to let us get our own way. It's not happening. I'm certain that there's no way that this board is just going to bend over and listen to what we have to say, which is one major problem with this board, is that I feel like we're going to clash heads more often than not. They want to change the way things work, but in my mind, if not now, then in 3 games' time. This is my ultimatum, and whilst I was absolutely Potter out, I personally believe that there is still a chance for Graham Potter to turn it around. And he has 3 games to do it. 3 games. He gets a result against Tottenham, whether that be a win or a draw. Either's fine at this rate. We'd be happy with a draw. He beats Leeds, a side without a manager. They're still in absolute, shambles, much like Southampton were. A win against them should be expected. And lastly, he gets us through to the next round of the Champions League. I truly believe if Potter can deliver those 3 things, the atmosphere, whilst still simmering, still a little steamy, will begin to shift. And if we are to stick with him for now, then that is what I believe he has to do in order to win the fans over once more. If he does those 3 things, he beats Tottenham or draws, he beats Leeds, he has to beat Leeds. And then, most importantly, if he can beat Dortmund and get us through to the next round, you'll start to see things change. However, if we lose all 3, or we just have, just really bad results like we have been, and then, again, there's still no improvement, then quite frankly, he's got to go. He has to go. If he can't get a result in the next 3 games, Dortmund's the most important, Tottenham for morale, Leeds because we have to beat Leeds in general terms. And I truly believe that we could see a turning point for the good if we win or get results in those 3 games. But as I said, if he doesn't, it's time to go. It's time to go. With that said, it's Potter Clock. Be sure to like, subscribe, hit the bell notification to be notified of any future content on the channel. We're getting ever so close to 3,000 subscribers. With that said, let me know how you're feeling about the whole situation. Are you Potter in, Potter out? What else is going on at this club? Until the Tottenham preview, stay safe. All the best. My name is Harry. Up the Chelsea. Brighter days are coming. They really are. Peace.